Close quarters combat is always a gamble when it comes to VR, thanks in large part to the lack of physical impact one has in the headset, unless you hit a wall, but I'm not counting that. No, what I mean is that for every boxing, sword fighting, and even just physics-based sandbox games, as good as some may be, that lack of tactile weight in both the weapons and their impact ultimately holds the genre back from feeling real. Broken Edge looks to take a different approach by letting players duel in fencing-like fashion, on or offline, delivering singular strikes while avoiding the enemy's swings, using a few classic warrior skins, weapons, and attack styles. This released November 17th, 2022 for the Quest 2 Pro and PCVR headsets for $10 US, and for this review, we checked out the game on the Quest 2 and the Quest 2 using Link. Can this new take on the sword fighting genre deliver on satisfying combat, and finally let us slice and dice our friends? Let's find out. Hello duelists, this is Ryan from the VR Grid, and before we jump into this review, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, subscribe, and leave us a comment, as it really helps us out. For those looking for any sort of narrative, look elsewhere, as this is all about setup and execution, with you choosing from one of 5 warrior classes, and duking it out against either AI-controlled foes of those same classes, minus the final boss, or playing online against other people. Those 5 classes are the Samurai, Barbarian, Knight, Duelist, and Persian, with each of them armed with swords befitting their respective combat eras. The Knight has a sword and shield, the Barbarian has a claymore, the Samurai a katana and smaller blades, the Duelist has 2 fencing swords, and the Persian is armed with 2 scimitars. In single player mode, you choose your combatant and proceed to face all 5 AI-controlled warriors, and must defeat them twice, with the final 2 combatants taking 3 or more downs to defeat. You win by depleting their health while you defend against their attacks, and if you die even once, you lose that bout. When playing online, each of you has 3 lives and must fight to the death in private, public, or ranked matches that score you on a few factors and place you somewhere on the global leaderboards based upon your performance. As you fight, an ELO score is applied to you, meaning that you should be matched with players at a similar level. This is all well and good, though I think that for many, how the swordplay works here will be divisive, as unlike other physics-driven brawlers like Swordsman VR or Blade and Sorcery, this one is all about finesse. What I mean by finesse is that this plays much more like a fencing game, where once either opponent connects with either blades or bodies, positions are reset, and you must prepare to engage once more. Both players start away from each other and automatically move closer together, which is a bit odd at first, as you appear to be stationary while your opponent slowly moves towards you, and they see the same thing. You can move around in the real world, ducking, weaving, and spinning, and whatever else you want to do, but need to be aware that you are always slowly moving closer to your opponent, and cannot deviate too far from your designated path, as the game keeps you in the play area. The key to winning combat is to strike your foe directly, or make contact with their blade, cutting at it like you would a tree, in that the further towards the hilt you touch, the more health is removed from the enemy's health bar, though depending upon where your swords connect, and how hard each of you swing, you could also suffer a loss of health, turning this into a game of slap hands to see who can react quicker and more accurately. Of course, you can land singular death blows should a strike not be blocked, but this happens rarely thanks to blocking swings with your main sword, secondary weapons, and even armor. Once your health has been fully drained and your weapon broken, you'll be left defenseless as your opponent slowly moves in for the killing blow. Unfortunately, the combat isn't that satisfying and doesn't always work as it should, with blades often passing through each other. The focus is clearly on the online multiplayer, though at the time of launch, there's no in-game voice chat, which makes those PvP battles substantially less engaging than they should be, as 2 players face off in silence, and while that is supposed to be addressed in the patch releasing in less than a week, it should have been here at launch. Also included in that patch is an improved training mode, in-game leaderboards for online ranked mode, a new arena for the Persian fighter, and more. And given that the update is only releasing in a few days, I can't help but feel like this release should have been pushed back. Each fighter has one main weapon, which acts as your health bar, and when hit, will regenerate slowly as long as you have health remaining, though may not fully form should you take a heavy blow. All of the characters minus the Barbarian have a secondary weapon or shield, which can deal out damage if it's a blade, and while they can be destroyed, will not adversely affect your overall health, with the shield held by the Knight absorbing blows but shrinking in size with each hit. Regardless of the weapon, none of them have any weight attached to them, so you can swing as fast or slow as you want without any sense of realism. Furthermore is the longer blade of the Barbarian, which seems to offer a substantial, unfair advantage over other classes. Each fighter also has special abilities and attacks that can deal out more damage or offer defenses from your attacker and require you to hold your weapon in a specific position or perform a series of weapon motions to activate an ability. These include a dramatically stronger hit, an automatic regeneration of your weapon, not your health, or a full body barrier which can only be broken by that strong attack or when it runs out. These add to the strategy involved, as using them at the right time could spell victory and could easily be wasted with a poor or missed attack, though on more than a few occasions, these powers would not activate even though I was performing the proper motions. While every warrior has the same powers, each must make different motions based upon their combat style to activate these buffs, which can be practiced in the dojo, where an AI instructor will remind you which motions activate which power. All of this makes for a combat system that feels mostly fair against other players, but less so against the AI who get multiple lives to defeat you. You can replay a lost fight as many times as you want, though should you go to the dojo to remind yourself how to perform abilities, when you head back to the game, you must start at the first fighter you faced, even if you've already made it to the final boss, the Tyrant. Trebuchet's previous title, Wins and Leaves, was one I greatly enjoyed, with a standout being the unique visual style used, and while this looks different, opting for a cel-shaded and stylized sketchbook type look, it does undeniably pop in the headset. Each warrior looks to be made of stone, with torso, arms, and heads, no legs here, all floating where you'd expect them to, and extending to match that player's motions. Each of these 6 warriors has a unique look and arena, and while these stages are largely static, the visuals had me longing for a larger game that utilizes the style, which is a good thing, as even playing in the same stage after multiple deaths, I still enjoyed taking in my surroundings. Fighter avatars are also fairly detailed, with some slick effects used when your sword reforms, contact is made, or when the final blow is swung, giving this smaller game some nice flair. I will note that on a few occasions, I seem to have spawned with the scale being off, with my body having smaller arms and hands than it should, though this seemed to reset after playing for a bit. Accompanying that flare is some decent audio, with every sword connection, armor impact, and huge blow delivering appropriate sound effects. A melodic and medieval score accompanies each battle and fits wonderfully with the overall aesthetic, so while what's here may be small in scale, I can't deny the polish in the overall presentation. What this all adds up to is a mundane PvP experience where battles feel like a slow game of chicken, and an irksome single-player game where defeat gets incredibly frustrating, while victories feel more like strokes of luck than proper skill. Even with those updates coming, for myself, there just isn't enough game here to keep me coming back for more, and while I appreciate the new take on the VR fighting genre, I just don't think it works well enough, as I found the entire experience to be rather dull. The slower, almost turn-based combat and lack of tactile feedback just wasn't satisfying, as even when I felt like I was doing good, it didn't really feel like true swordplay. That is not Broken Edge's fault, and is a shortcoming of VR as a whole, but after playing this for a few hours, I found the entire experience to be more frustration than it was worth, with only fleeting moments of fun. The $10 price tag on this does place this in a budget category of VR games, but even at that price, I don't really know who this game is for, and while some aspects of it are enjoyable, the entire package just feels like it misses the mark. The VR Grid gives Broken Edge a 5.5 out of 10. I appreciate the attempt at trying something new, I just don't think this works. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to hit that like button, and that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching.